Hey guys, Cody with CJC Offroad, and today I'm going to be showing you what I believe to be the most expensive third gen build that I've ever laid my eyes on. I think we've all had a dream of building the ultimate third gen Ram. I mean, these trucks have kind of been iconic. What really started this progression of putting king shocks on a diesel truck and being able to push it hard off-road. So we've all had that dream of finding that perfect grandpa-owned truck, driving up on a farm and just seeing that cherry third gen, taking it, getting it on a limited budget, quote unquote, and putting together the ultimate truck that can drag race, can look at car shows, you can jump it, you can go camp out of it, and really do anything you've ever wanted to. Kind of what we've always talked about of getting like the ultimate Swiss Army knife of a vehicle. I think we finally realized that dream with this truck. Meet Dan Tourino, VP of Carli Suspension's personal third gen Cummins. Now, like I said, Dan's truck started out actually of what we all wanted, a grandpa-owned bone stock third gen. But in typical form, for those of us who just can't leave anything alone, that didn't last long. If you followed him on social media before, you'll see that this truck's made many progressions. It started out as something basic, more of a test bed for Carli Suspension's products. And idle hands are the devil's handiwork. I think just like I get a little busy shopping my own builds, Dan dreamt up pretty much the ultimate third gen, and I'd say he's actually executed that perfectly. This truck will allow him to hit the Mojave Road. It'll allow him to go to a car show. He can take his kids camping. It truly is able to do it all. And at the base of it is going to be the Carli 3-inch Unchained system. Now, you're going to see a lot of suspension systems online for these trucks and marketed as a performance capacity as it regards to high and low speed off-road. The Carli Suspension long arm system is the most complete, most custom tuned system out there for these trucks. With 11.5 inches of front travel, 13 inches of rear travel, that's gonna be bolt-on suspension travel. With a long arm, you do have to end up removing your factory short arm mounts. However, the system does allow you to really do it all. This truck can jump, as you can see here, or it can go in a low speed rock crawling sections and keep up with Jeeps and pretty much get itself anywhere a quad cab Cummins truck can fit. So what's really unique about it, again, is gonna be the custom long arm tuning. We're not taking a shock from brand X, pairing up with our long arms, grabbing a brake line kit from someone else and saying, hey, here's a true performance system. This system is actually brought up from the ground up as a full performance-oriented system that, again, is going to allow this truck to run fast off-road in high-speed situations, or allow the truck to rock crawl and get full articulation. There's been a lot of discussion on long arms, binding, things like that. This truck can achieve its full articulation. And in fact, you'll see this truck actually has 40-inch tires that took a ton of work to clear with just how much suspension articulation and how much wheel well stuff this truck can get. That is a really long way of saying this is the coolest, most complete, high-performance system that bolts onto a third-gen Ram on the market. Now, diving into the specifics, again, this truck has the full Carli Suspension catalog, as you'd expect for the VP of the company. So you're gonna have even their chromoly motor mounts or their new billet motor mounts. You're gonna have the Carli Suspension axle truss. Again, this truck is going to be on Toyo 40-inch MT tires and wrapped around 17-inch KMC wheels. That's gonna give this truck an extreme edge off-road, right? So that 40 on a 17 is gonna have a ton of sidewall. So when you do get in those rock crawling situations, you're gonna get a ton of float over the rocks, a ton of traction, and yet when fully inflated, this truck drives extremely well on road. Now, in order to fit those 40-inch tires, again, a ton of work was required. The inner fender wells were hogged out, a ton of fabrication was used, and this truck received ADV fiberglass fenders that then were custom painted, Linexed inside. Basically, every small detail was done on this build to achieve both a good look outside and inside, so it's a really cool setup. Probably gonna be at least 1 or 2 comments on this video. How the heck does that Dodge front end survive under 40-inch tires? Dan, again, is using Carli Suspension's lifetime warranty ball joints and the Dynatrack free spin kit. That's gonna switch the truck over to almost like a Dana 60 style setup. And so if he does find himself going through wheel bearings, it's much simpler and much cheaper to replace than a whole hub bearing like we typically would see on a 3rd gen Ram. Now, in addition to the ball joints and the free spin hubs, this truck also got the Apex steering linkage, and that's all gonna be pushed around by a custom PSC box and Hydro Assist setup. There was a little bit of custom fabrication work involved there where a 14 or newer Ram power steering pump was used, as well as a custom power steering reservoir setup that's gonna allow this truck to be run hard off-road, heat up the power steering fluid, but not get any kind of weird cavitation or any other weird characteristics that you would see when you're pushing a setup to an extreme limits. For bumpers, this truck also has the iconic Mercenary Offroad bumpers. I think we can all agree, pretty much it's still the best looking 3rd gen bumper out there. As is par for the course, American-made products. You have American-made lights, you have the Baja Designs lighting package, front and rear on this truck. You know, and again, also for lights, the Retro Shop headlights, something that we've used on some of our builds and Dan's used as well. It kind of just wraps up this kind of, you know, untouched thing where no stone is left unturned on just an ultimate dream build like this.
I'm waiting for the right
Moving on to power, Dan had a full built Randy's transmission along with custom injectors, head studs, valve springs, push rods, upgraded CP3, new turbo, custom tuning, intake elbow, coolant bypass, and I'm sure a couple other small things thrown in there. Dan actually spent, I'm sure, a lot of our phone conversations where he was listening to me drone on. I'm pretty sure he was just filling out shopping carts for his own custom motor setup. But hey, such is life. Building a custom setup like this takes a lot of daydreaming, and I think we can all agree this is still one of the coolest third gens out there. Now, with all of that, all these motor upgrades, as well as plans to push the Mojave Road, a lot of other trips we take throughout the year, company to company, it kind of fell in place that the truck would get an S&B 53-gallon fuel tank. The goal with that for a lot of guys is for towing, but sometimes when we're crossing the Mojave Road, I think we've all had a couple pucker factor moments where we spent a little too much time playing in the dirt and saw the gas light coming on before we ever saw a gas station. That fuel tank's gonna help prevent that from ever happening. Inside the cab, as you'd expect, custom stereo, gauges, race radio, GPS, switch controller, pretty much all the stuff required, or pretty much the proper cockpit configuration for a truck of this, the truck of this level. You're gonna wanna be able to control the lights, monitor just, how much you're lighting on fire your GTs and things like that when you're mashing off-road. Now moving on to the camper setup, the Go Fast camper, which we've become quite fond of with our Power Wagon. Dan went with that as well. However, due to what he's gonna be doing as far as jumping and the extremely hard launches and stuff like that, they actually added a little bit of bracing underneath the bed. That's just gonna help keep things all together. He also went with the CJC built bulkhead molly panel, and what that does is allows you to tie basically anything you want to the front of the truck, backup house batteries, floor jacks, spare tires, fire extinguishers, shovels, any of that stuff. It's gonna keep it all nice and tidy. And yeah, it just makes for a super clean setup for camping. I know I've camped in ours multiple times. Dan's used his as well, and I think he's even taken his kids as well, so the Go Fast camper is an extremely cool option for that. Definitely a little bit of jealous of this. Dan definitely beat me to building the ultimate third gen build. One of these days, I think I'll find an old man tan one and get me one myself so we can have some competing builds out there. But yeah, I mean, I just think that you rarely will find a third gen. I mean, there's plenty of third gens who put down 9-second times on the quarter mile. There's plenty of rock crawler third gens out there, but I think there's very few that are able to wrap up all the levels of performance still in a good looking package, something that you'd actually be proud to take to a car show, things like that. I can't really emphasize enough just how jealous I am of a build like this. But yeah, if you do want to see more of this truck, head on over to Carli Suspension social media on Instagram or Facebook, or at Tourino on Instagram. He's got a ton of videos of this truck. I would too. We've had a lot of good times going on runs with these trucks. Hopefully we get a few more in. And I don't think he's going to ever sell this thing. So that'll probably be another question in the comments. It's probably not for sale, but I'm sure if you throw a number at him one day, maybe he'll cave. Well, awesome. Thanks for watching. I think this probably is, again, the coolest third gen out there. If you got a harder charging, better looking rig, send us a message. We'd love to check it out. If you did like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys on the next one.